You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, broadcast in early March 2022. Today I talk to an amazing actress who is taking over the role of Dodo Chaplet for Big Finish. Lauren Cornelius joins me today. We have collection protection and the most outrageous offer coming up. But first, a word from Fraser Hines.
Hello, Fraser Hines here.
They all say, who is Doctor Who? Where is he from? What does he do? They wonder who is Doctor Who? So I ask you, who's Doctor Who?
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, the podcast that explores the ever-changing world of Doctor Who collecting, those who collect, issues surrounding Doctor Who collecting, and of course all kinds of Doctor Who merchandise, and sometimes just Doctor Who-related items. I am Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been collecting Doctor Who now for 40 years. I opened the first Doctor Who store in Chicago that exclusively served the Doctor Who fans, and it was back in 1984, and we called it Bundles from Britain. I forgot about Bundles from Britain in the late 90s, but when a book came out called Red, White, and Who, the story of Doctor Who in America, lo and behold, I found it in the index, and it lives on page 384. To be part of Doctor Who history was not something I had intended to do, but there we are. You can find a convenient link to buy this book on the front page of our website at DoctorWhoCollectors.com. We are a part of the Direction Point Doctor Who Podcast Network, and you can find more great Doctor Who podcasts at DirectionPoint.org. If you are a Doctor Who podcaster listening to this podcast, join today at DirectionPoint.org and join the ranks of Time Streams, Police Box in a Junkyard, the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, and Traveling the Vortex. For more information, DirectionPoint.org. Speaking of links, we have two great resources that I like to include on every episode. Timelash.com and select the TARDIS library to keep track of your books, your vinyl, your Betamax tapes, your VHS tapes, your 45 records, your vinyl records, your hardcover books, your paperbacks for free. Thanks to Dan O'Malley, you can sign up for a free account there and keep track of your want lists and all of your items. They don't catalog everything, but most of the print items and audio items. If you need to find something that's unusual or perhaps not in a category that the TARDIS library covers, or you need to do your own Doctor Who research, then you need Howe's Transcendental Toy Box at drwhotoybox.co.uk. That is run, of course, by our good friend David J. Howe, and one of the best resources for collectors. And of course, if you're always looking for great Doctor Who items at great prices, look no further than DoctorWhoStore.com. They have everything you need and currently running sales on many items, including W.H. Allen hardbacks. If you're looking to complete those, they've got a few in stock. And you can also select free pickup from the store if you're local to Chicago. And while you're there, browse the incredible selection of Doctor Who items and other science fiction items. Open Wednesday through Saturday. If you need to visit with the owner, Mr. Gene Smith, he's usually there on Saturdays. You can also find great Doctor Who items at our website at DoctorWhoCollectors.com. We are sponsored by Forbidden Planet, so just one visit to our website and selecting merchandise links gives you the entire world of the Forbidden Planet library. And of course, our own eBay store. We have many Target books for sale right now on the eBay store, and some other goodies, of course, and all those proceeds benefit the podcast. When you click through for a Forbidden Planet item, it takes you back to the Forbidden Planet webpage. You check out on their site, and you pay the same price. But a portion of that price goes back to the podcast. So we appreciate all of your patronage. In addition to all of our podcasts on our website, of course, we have the complete guide to Doctor Who classic hardcover books. It is the most complete guide to my knowledge, and we have used many resources that have started their research out there, and we've put it all together in one place to list even reprints that some collectors didn't even know existed and didn't even know they had. So we're also airing part of our 10-part series on the classic hardcovers with our Doctor Who novelization expert, Dr. Tony Witt. Although not a real doctor, just plays one on the podcast. Now, of course, that Chicago TARDIS 21 is behind us. We are counting down to Chicago TARDIS 2022, and we have some guest announcements. So far, we have Sylvester McCoy, the 7th Doctor. Fraser Hines, you heard him earlier. He played Jamie McCrimmon. And, of course, Jason Haig-Ellery, the CEO and executive producer at Big Finish Productions. So keep ChicagoTARDIS.com in your bookmarks and experience the best Doctor Who convention in the Midwest. I am honored, of course, to be the official collecting expert for Chicago TARDIS, and you can see my Doctor Who collecting panel from our virtual 2020 convention on the Chicago TARDIS YouTube and Facebook page streams. Also, on the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast YouTube channel, you just select playlists, and it's a convenient link right there. I will have more Chicago TARDIS updates as they happen. Special thank you to our sponsors. We've already mentioned Forbidden Planet and Bags Unlimited Incorporated, of course. And you can, of course, get many things from those items. We get most of our collection protection materials at bagsunlimited.com, and we are happy to call them the sponsor of our collection protection segment. Last link to share here, of course, is get the latest books from Telos Publications. Telos.co.uk takes you to that website. And yes, they do ship to the United States. Today's show, we are talking with an amazing actress. We are going to be talking with the role of Dodo Chaplet for Big Finish, the second actress to play that role, and of course that is Lauren Cornelius. I got to meet her at Chicago TARDIS, and we've got her on the program today. I want to thank our patrons. If you'd like to see exclusive material, not let out to the basically not let out to the public or behind the scenes, you can visit us at our Patreon page. And so that's patreon.com/Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. We want to thank, of course, the Doctor Who Target Book Club for supporting us. At anywhere at the $15 level and above gets you behind the scenes. The video interview of today's interview with Lauren Cornelius will be up there soon. We also have our interviews with Sadie Miller and David J. Howe, along with other video content that we are creating. So just visit us there, and those proceeds, of course, benefit the podcast. Yeah, you can also support us at Podbean. So if you go to drwhocollectors.podbean.com and click the Become a Patron button, and you can support us at any amount you feel comfortable with. And while we're talking about money, we are in the midst of raising money. We have the opportunity to bring Doctor Who legend Peter Purves on our podcast. He played Stephen Taylor and traveled with the First Doctor. There are not too many companions left that have traveled with the First Doctor, so we would like to get him on our podcast. Our goal is to raise $271. That's all we need to bring him on the podcast. That's what his agent is asking for, and I think it's reasonable. So your sponsorships of this podcast will get a lot of reach, since this will be my highest-ranking guest ever. Just go to drwhocollectors.com and click the donate button, but make sure to include Peter Purves' name in the message so we can add you to the sponsor list. Our theme song is Who's Doctor Who, composed by Barry Mason and Les Reed, performed by Fraser Hines, who, of course, played Jamie McCrimmon, and you'll see him at Chicago TARDIS 2022. You can hear this podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, including Stitcher Radio, Pandora, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Podbean, and anywhere good podcasts are found. However, you will not find us on Spotify. We are a Direction Point Network podcast at directionpoint.org. After the break, we have breaking news today, some collection protection stories, our main story, of course, and our most outrageous offer. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Juliet.
And I'm Nathan.
Experience Doctor Who from the very beginning through a classic fan's eyes.
And through the eyes of a new Who fan.
Reminisce and relive those classic moments with Nathan as he offers fun insight.
Or experience them for the first time with Juliet as she dwells on social issues, history, fashion, and the size of a flashlight.
We're the Time Streams podcast.
find us on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Are you ready to travel through time with us? Then check out Traveling the Vortex, a Doctor Who podcast. For nearly 7 years and more than 500 episodes, we've traveled from one end of the vortex to the other, making different stops with different doctors, reviewing everything from TV stories to audio plays, from books to comics, and more. Sean, Keith, and Glenn take you on a journey through 50-plus years of Doctor Who episodes and spin-off materials. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, so be sure to check us out. And now, we're a proud member of Direction Point, a Doctor Who podcast network. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Sad, really, isn't it? People spend all their time making nice things, and other people come along and break them.
And now it's time for collection protection. Protecting your collectibles. It's very important to keep your Doctor Who collection protected. The more expensive your item, the more you may have to spend to protect it. But you can get the best quality protection at bagsunlimited.com. This segment is brought to you by Bags Unlimited. They provided us some great giveaways at the last Chicago TARDIS convention and hope to do that again. You can find out more at bagsunlimited.com or at 1-800-767-2247. They have a limited sale going on right now, and you can find out on their website through special offers all of their weekly deals, but I want to call attention to this one. If you collect Doctor Who vinyl records, 12-inch records, the big ones, and if you have those, a good way to store them is with these wonderful storage boxes. I have quite a few of these myself. The 12-inch vinyl record storage box, it measures 13 by 13 by 10 3/4, holds approximately 50 to 65 records. It's made from 200-pound test corrugated cardboard. It's white on the outside. And you can get those, usually 2 of those are usually $29.82 or 5 for $60.67. But with this special coupon code, which is WD number sign 92022 at checkout, and you can get 20% off that deal, which is actually quite a nice price reduction. So again, protecting your vinyl records is important. In addition to, of course, boxes, check out their area on vinyl sleeves and inner sleeves and other items, or record frames if you want to hang them on the wall. So they have all of that stuff at bagsunlimited.com. This has been Collection Protection.
Hello, this is Lauren Cornelius, and I play Dodo Chaplet on Doctor Who for Big Finish. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
And now it's time for our main story. The character of Dodo Chaplet joined the first Doctor in the story Bell of Doom, or as we know it as Part 4 of the Massacre, and that would be this story right here. Continued with the Doctor and Stephen Taylor in the next story, which is called The Ark. Followed by a very interesting story called The Celestial Toymaker, featuring the wonderful Michael Goff. Next, we go to the Savages. Oh, excuse me. No, I skipped that one. We go to the Gunfighters. One of the most interesting stories in itself. It's the only story to have a ballad of music, putting those stories together. And then Stephen's final story, The Savages. Dodo travels with the Doctor. And then unceremoniously, her contract is failed to renewed in Part 2 of The War Machines. Dodo Chaplet was portrayed by the late Jackie Lane, who passed away on June 23rd, 2021 at the age of 79. She would never return to the role of Dodo, even when Big Finish reprised the role. Dodo Chaplet as a character is mentioned in many publications and has conflicting storylines regarding her life and her death and her subsequent rescue from death. Dodo Chaplet has many fan pages. Jackie Lane herself never appeared at a Doctor Who convention in the United States and only appeared at one in the UK, the Monopticon in 1991, and did it only because it was a charitable event. She would never appear at another Doctor Who convention, nor she would ever participate in a DVD commentary. Her autographs are very rare, and a photograph with her is extremely rare. Recently, Big Finish made a huge announcement that Dodo Chaplet has been recast for future adventures. And I'm very honored to have as my guest today, actor, writer, director, and producer, Lauren Cornelius. Welcome to our show, Lauren.
Oh, what an intro. That was amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here and to chat and to see you again.
You too. I met Lauren at Chicago TARDIS. She was at the table with the Big Finish crew, and I had brought a Tom Baker action figure for Sadie to sign right underneath where her mother had signed it 20 years prior to that. And it was kind of everybody, including Jason Haig-Ellery, was even interested in that little item. And he was like, oh, take that out of the box. Let's see what that looks like. And, and then, of course, you were at the end of the table and we had a wonderful conversation. I know I gave you my card and we've connected on Instagram, and it was wonderful. You know, I do enjoy, without stalking, I enjoy following your stories and what you do outside of your life. And of course, right now, Lauren is currently at Gallifrey 1 in Los Angeles. So how are things out there in sunny California?
Well, it's sunny today, which is good. I think there's going to be raining tomorrow. So I brought the British weather with me. So typical. But no, it's been gorgeous. It's been so nice. We're on day 3. I've met some incredible people. It's just been lovely to do some panels and meet and greets and getting to know everyone, and seeing some unbelievable costumes and outfits. I mean, that's what blew me away at the Chicago TARDIS, just the sheer creativity of everyone that kind of comes together in this amazing community. So it's been absolutely brilliant so far. I don't want it to end. I can't believe it. I feel like we've just got here and it's already day 3.
I think now that you're part of the Doctor Who world, I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
I hope. I'm having too much fun.
Well, I know one of my good friends out there who I had on the podcast a few episodes ago is Katie Haynes. She does an amazing 13th Doctor. You might have seen her around. She's she's like on full energy all the time. And she just a lot of my friends are out there sharing photographs and wonderful messages back from Los Angeles. So that's wonderful. So I don't know if I don't know if you checked this already, but Dodo Chaplet has an official Wikipedia page.
She does, yes. I did have a look at that.
And it's already been updated to include you as the actress portraying Dodo Chaplet.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I haven't seen it since I've been added to it. So I'm going to go check that out.
So yeah, it's so you share that moniker with Jackie Lane. So that's a really interesting thing. So let me ask you first, how did you come about to be cast for the role of Dodo Chaplet?
I got a phone call from one of the producers, Alfie Shaw, and this was a while ago now. I remember it was cold, so I think it was in January maybe last year, and they said we've got the rights. We're going to do the first Doctor. We're going to recast, have a new Doctor come in and voice the character, and we're bringing back an old companion from the 60s. We'd love for you to do the part. And I just thought, oh my God. I'd done a couple of Big Finish productions. I was lucky enough to be cast in The Creeping Death.
Yes.
I did Planet of the Witches. I did a couple. I played Judas Shakespeare in one of them, which was amazing. That was so much fun. But it's been sort of lovely roles that I've had so much fun doing, but nothing kind of, my goal was to be, I'd always dreamed of being a companion because then I get to go on adventures all the time. And you sort of get to know the character even more and develop that relationship with the character and grow with that character rather than just coming in, doing an episode and then that's it for that character. And you never know what happens. So when I got that call, it was just, oh wow, it was literally a dream come true. It was just awesome. But then after the call, I think there was a few months until I actually got into the studio and started recording it. So I had a lot of time. We shared videos, because to be completely honest, I didn't really know much about this character. And I'm not sure that lots of fans would even know too much about her because she wasn't around, as you said, for very long. And she went through a few, so it was a bit of, being an actor is like being a detective anyway, I think. Once you get the script, you've got to get your monocle out and you've got to start doing your prep and you've got to start peeling, dissecting it, peeling away the layers of the onion to get all the crux of the story and your characters and the intentions and the wants, the needs. Like, there's a lot that goes into when you get a script to when you guys listening to it hear the finished product, all the work that goes on that everyone kind of does. So yeah, it was amazing, and it was a real research task as well. So I mean, if you find anything that I might not have found before, please share it. Any of your listeners want to send me some hidden gems or undiscovered bits of info and intel on Dodo and her heritage, please do.
Oh gosh, I'll send you a few links when we're done, because there are entire fan pages dedicated to Dodo Chaplet, including like an entire timeline and story that even bridges together when she was in a book called Who Killed Kennedy, and some of the other non-adventure books, new adventure books that were published, tying all of those together with her stories. Of course, sadly, many of her stories no longer exist in the BBC archive, because in their great wisdom, they decided to wipe the entire series of Doctor Who before anybody thought, hey, we might make money on that in the future.
We might want that. People might want to know about this.
and unfortunately, her stories got the biggest. I was just going through the book. All of them have been novelized. I mean, my first experience with Jackie Lane was this story, The War Machines. Back when I was a kid, only episode 2 survived so far. They did not have the rest of them yet. And that was her final performance, was episode 2 of The War Machines. She got basically, they didn't tell her contract hadn't been renewed until after the filming of that episode. And so they did a quick rewrite in episode 3 so that William Hartnell could say, there was a note left for you. And she goes, oh, how ungrateful, how terrible that was. She just left without saying a word. And I remember, in another interview with William Hartnell, he said he was just saddened that, of course, she didn't get renewed. And there was also Jackie Lane herself, even in very rare interviews, said that she was unhappy with her character. And she gave, I think she gave one definitive interview, and then after that, she's like, I have nothing more to say about it.
I don't want to say anymore.
She said that was in the past, and she had a great career as an actress and as an agent.
She went to be an agent, didn't she?
Yeah, a voice actor agent. She represented Tom Baker and Janet Fielding. So, I think Colin Baker too for a brief time. So, she definitely maintained that. I know. I also speak to Peter Purvis, and he maintained a relationship with her. Just casual. They talked with each other when they could, but he wasn't that close to her. I'll talk about him more later. But as far as unfortunately, The Savages does not exist. But maybe we should get you some of these books to read so you could.
Yeah. Well, I've made friends with a lovely guy called Corey who I met at Chicago TARDIS. And he had a book at the Chicago TARDIS. So I had a read of that, and I've got another one somewhere. Hold on, somewhere.
Oh, sure. Exists. That's part 4, but it's got a lot of Dodo in it.
Okay.
The Ark exists in its entirety, and that's an interesting story as well. And she actually is the cause of the trouble in this story.
That does not surprise me.
So she it's not really a spoiler. A lot of people have seen the Ark, but what she does is she inadvertently, they land on this spaceship and she sneezes and gives the entire population the common cold, which kills off a bunch of the population.
Oh my goodness.
And it's really something. And of course, it all starts with the Massacre. And I'm not sure if you're aware of what happened there. This was during St. Bartholomew's Eve back in the 1500s. And one of the characters was named Chaplet. And after the story was over, they briefly land in 1966 London and meet Dorothea Chaplet, who they assumed was a descendant of that character. And of course, she just wanders into the TARDIS thinking it's a police box. And Stephen, even at one point at the end, he gets really disgusted with the Doctor and he was just going to leave. He was just going to exit in 1966 and not come back. But then he does come back, and then they take off before realizing that Dorothea is still in the TARDIS. So it's a really cool storyline. And I've seen them all, and I've always enjoyed Jackie Lane's performance as it's one of those characters that kind of not quite as in the first Doctor area. Of course, you got Katarina, who's there for like one story and then she's killed, and Sarah Kingdom, who's in like 3 episodes and then she's killed, and Vicky is there for just a short period of time, and even Steven Taylor is only there for a little bit, and at the same time. The War Machines, which was, by the way, the first episode on modern day Earth, kind of a prelude to what was going to happen with unit stories in the second Doctor and the third Doctor, and kind of gave the Doctor a connection there. But they really wanted to make it more hip.
Yeah.
And so they cast Annika Wills and Michael Craze to, 2 younger people to join the TARDIS crew kind of in that episode. And then they ushered Dodo out. So it was sad knowing, I didn't know it at the time when I first saw it, but later after I read what happened, and I was like, wow, that's acting is a tough business. I mean,
it is a tough business.
You get the gig and then all of a sudden, the show's over, and I have 2 friends of mine who are in acting in America, and they said, you never know what's going to happen. You get a television job, it's great, and then it gets canceled, and then you show up and, nope, sorry, set's gone, we're doing something else.
Or, you have a great role and then they just kill your character off and you're like, oh, I was just getting started.
and of course, I prefer the British television. We have BritBox here, so it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, great.
So I'm always, when I watch a program, I'm always like, oh, hey, I've seen that person in that and that. And so I came to the conclusion there are only 30 actors in England because they're in everything.
There are a select few, and the casting directors and directors tend to use the same people over and over again. So hopefully that will change soon, because I think it's so great that, you've got such an array of wonderful actors. The training in the UK is so fantastic.
Oh, yes.
There's so many brilliant actors out there. We need to get some new faces on the screens, I think.
I agree, and I'm hoping to see more of your wonderful face on the screen as well. I know you've done some television and movie work, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But have you watched any of the first Doctor stories with Jackie Lane as of yet?
Yeah. So I went and watched some. That was part of my little research task.
Yes.
I went into the studio, and I was picking out bits. And there's lots of wonderful stuff on the internet, on YouTube. There's clips that people have put together. So I think we've been talking a lot about this weekend. In that it's always really challenging when you come on board to play a character that someone else has already established. They've already set their mark on it, made a stamp, and the character is recognized as this actor playing them. I mean, fortunately, my hair isn't as short as Jackie's, but I'm petite and I've got dark hair. So I mean, visually that kind of, just a bit more kind of, a bit more out there with my, what I wear to her. But I quite like that Dodo was quite, fun and fashionable, and she loves a mini skirt, and she was very, cheeky and sassy, and all these wonderful things about her character. So there was lots to go with and lots to work with from what Jackie had already done with Dodo and had already established with her character. And the writing has been so great. I mean, so far I've only recorded 3 episodes for Big Finish as Dodo. I mean, 2 of which are coming out. You can pre-order them now via Big Finish, so they're out in April. But yeah, the writing on that, Elizabeth Myers, it was just fantastic. It was so good. But going back and watching previous episodes and the work that Jackie had already done, it gave me something to work off of. So I had a starting point, and I wanted to take a bit of her essence and her energy and bring that with me to continue the legacy of what she started, but then kind of, put my own Lauren Cornelius twist on it.
Oh, absolutely, because it should be your character, and even though there's a lot of people, and hopefully it won't go to that controversy that when wait a minute, you're recasting, because I know Big Finish has talked about recasting Roger Delgado's Master, but they keep saying we're not sure it hasn't happened yet, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But people are like, well, hold on a second, that's something you can't go, people are saying don't go there. Sadie Miller had the wonderful opportunity to portray her mother, which I and she was brilliant at it. I've listened to all of her stuff, and we had her on the podcast a few episodes back, and it was we even gave her the Sarah Jane quiz. So it was unfortunately I looked around to see if there were any quiz questions about Dodo Chaplet. There aren't any. So it was kind of
as we make new stories, maybe we can get a new one.
I hope so, and hopefully that will go there. Of course, I also want to mention too that there was another actress that didn't portray Dodo, but portrayed Jackie Lane in the movie An Adventure in Time and Space, and that would be Sophie Holt. I don't know if you knew that. It was a very minor part. They did the photo shoot in front of BBC Studios, and they had someone playing Peter Purvis, somebody playing Jackie Lane, and I think she says one thing, or actually there's a photographer saying, Miss Lane, if you could turn this way, Mr. Purvis, Miss Lane, and that's about it's about a 3 or 4 second thing, because every time they advance, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's a wonderful movie.
No, I'm going to add it to my list.
Yeah, it's about how Doctor Who started, and it stars David Bradley, who plays William Hartnell, and actually and some big stars are in there. Mark Gatiss wrote the story, and it just talks. It talks about how the story got from the idea stage to the stage, and then every year they did a big photo shoot. So the first one was with Ian, Susan, and Barbara, and then later with Vicky and the next group, and then the last photo with Annika, Michael Craze, Jackie Lane, Steven Taylor, and moving into that next, and how Patrick Troughton got the role at the very end of the movie. So it's a great. It's on. I know it's on BritBox. So
well, I'm sure I'll be able to find it when I go back home for sure.
and I know you've played other characters for Big Finish. Any interesting stories about your experience working at Big Finish? Any encounters or anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, well, for me, one of the most amazing characters, aside from Dodo, I'm still, on this incredible journey with her. So this feels like it's just the beginning. So that's all really exciting. That is my current work. But previously, I have to say, one of my favorite episodes that I did was one by Roy Gill called The Creeping Death. And that was with David Tennant and Catherine Tate. And I have to say, David Tennant is my favorite Doctor. He was my favorite. So I was a huge fan of his work and what he was doing. So when I got that gig and I was playing Ivy Clark in it, and the story, I mean, I'm from London myself, so I'm a bit of a history geek. I love learning about the
old city.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, what a rich history London's had over the years. So I've always been a bit obsessed with the history. And so this was set in the 50s with the fog, when, it was so dark for every single day. It was just thick with smog. And I just thought the story in itself was so clever. And if you haven't listened to it, I definitely recommend just for writing for that.
It's on my list. I
hope you enjoy it. It's one of my favorites.
If you haven't downloaded the Big Finish app, of course, when you buy something on Big Finish, it automatically gets added to the playlist on your app. So it's definitely up in my playlist.
Okay.
I'm still catching up on all of Sadie's stuff, so I want to make sure I get Laura, your stuff in there. And I've been buying from Big Finish since they opened their doors. So
that's keeping them in business. We love it. We love to see it.
I told Jason I still somewhere have my cassette copy of the Sirens of Time from 1999. And because that's when they started. Just a wonderful thing.
But
I know
that one was my absolute favorite, just because he was such an icon and an inspirational figure for me. And that was one of my first job, first sort of big girl jobs out of drama school. And I am acting opposite David Tennant and Catherine Tate, who were, I just grew up watching them on TV. Catherine Tate is just a comedian, comedy icon over in the UK. For me, that was just a wow moment, and getting to work opposite them and just getting to build the rapport with them. I just feel like I learned a lot as well, but just about everything. I feel like I really, just working with them made me up my game as an actor. And you just learn I always think you can read books, you can study, you can train, whatever, all of that's great. But you really start finding your feet when you're actually doing something, whether that's acting, writing, directing, kind of you know, or just even a normal job, a regular job, like an office job. Sometimes you just have to throw yourself in and do it and trust yourself. And then you learn from everything around you. So yeah, it was just a really incredible learning experience. And I think the work that we came out with in the end, the end product was something that I'm super proud of and just really, really enjoyed. And I got a bit of a history lesson as well from Roy's writing. So that's one of the great things about doing Big Finish scripts. You get the scripts and they're like this big, they're so thick, they're like full on Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings style novels. And you're just like, how are we going to record this in 2 days? You know, you think you've got 2-3 days to do this whole thing. Sometimes even just one day, if you've got actors who are doing other projects, it's like, right, we got to get all of this in one day. Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. Yeah. And so you go through it and you get, you know, to have fun with your other actors and go on the adventures. But also you learn something. Every time I've done a script, I've come away thinking, wow, did that happen? We didn't learn about that in school. Why didn't we learn about that in school? That's so interesting.
That's something that was indicative of the first Doctor's run, was a lot of historical stories, like the French Revolution or the Massacre at St. Bartholomew's Eve, or things that he would be a part of, or the Reign of Terror, the King Richard the Lionheart. He met him, and that was kind of, or even the second Doctor in going back to the Battle of Culloden in 1777 with Scotland, meeting Jamie McCrimmon for the first time and doing some of those historical stories. And they moved away from that for quite a few years. And then they started doing a few in the Tom Baker era. But a lot of those things, of course, the first Doctor, second Doctor stories were not shown in the United States at all. I started with the third Doctor back in 1975 when he was on TV. And there was a couple of historical stories, but not a lot. But that's a wonder. I think you just gave a wonderful inspirational talk to any listeners out there who are wanting to be an actor. Which, by the way, not an easy job to do, by the way. I know so many actors that say, no, this is hard work. And sometimes it's Sadie Miller talked about graduating from drama school and working in a call center. Because I mean, that's the unglamorous side of being an actor. You don't sometimes, I mean, we don't get to act every single day. I'd love to. But you know, even movie stars, they have like times when you've got downtime, when you're waiting for your next project to come in, when you've got, you know, other things to do. You might have another business that you run or something like that. There's being an actor is one aspect. It's a lifestyle, but it's one aspect of your life. And then when you get the gig, oh my goodness, it's just, you know, it's you're just living your dream and you're doing that. But in the meanwhile, you know, we've got to pay bills as well. Like we're human. the grown-up part of life, everyone. And some of my younger listeners, so just wait till you get your first house and you got to pay a mortgage or you got to pay a water bill or fix a leaky roof. Those are the things that, you know, and when you're an actor and you don't know when that check's coming in, so you have to plan and be prepared. And
it's an interesting lifestyle for sure. I wouldn't have it any other way though, but it's just made me realize that I do lots of other fun things on the side. Like, you know, I DJ, I'm a fitness instructor. I love 80s aerobics. So I do that. So I was actually saying, I need to say to Jason, next Gallifrey or next Chicago TARDIS or one of these, I want to lead an 80s aerobics class, to aerobics with Dodo.
I would go to that. That would be awesome.
Fun.
Speaking of conventions, I mean, this has to be your first experience when you went to Chicago and to Galley. So, what has been your experience at these conventions? I mean, how did you, of course, being in, they say baptism by fire is when the Doctor Who actor comes to their first convention and experiences fans. So tell me about that reaction you had.
Oh my goodness. Well, because I'm so new as well, it's been really lovely because I'm just getting to meet people, I'm getting to know people, I'm getting to build relationships with wonderful people like yourself, and then coming on and getting to do these lovely interviews and to talk more and just sort of share myself as Lauren, who I'm, bringing to I'm coming into your community. And I just feel very honored and privileged to be here and to be working with you. And I want to see it as like a team effort as well. So Dodo's someone that, didn't really have much of she wasn't around for very long, so I feel like there's scope for us to develop her, and I'd love for people to see like what they want to experience with her, what they want to know about her, how they want to get to know her, all of that kind of stuff. So it's been really nice getting to talk to people who have read things that she's been in or watched some of her previous episodes and who are so excited that she's back in a new kind of new way. So yeah, and it just blows my mind. As I said, it's just such a lovely creative hub. Everyone's so warm, so welcoming, so friendly, just very expressive. I feel like one of the most amazing things about this is these conventions, the two I've been lucky enough to come to now. This is my second, but this one's even bigger than the Chicago one.
Oh yeah, Galley's a big one. Yeah,
it's like the world's biggest, isn't it?
Yes.
But yeah, it's just a celebration of all things sci-fi, all things Doctor Who, all things unique to you as a person. It's such a safe space. It's such a welcoming space. And I think that's so important, you know, in this life for younger generations, but for everyone, you know, everyone to celebrate who you are as an individual, what you like in life, and to find people to share that with, and then to be part of this community, which is just so solid, so strong. And it's just beautiful, sharing stories with people, hearing people's experiences as well of how they listen to, you know, because I do mostly the audio drama.
Right.
Hearing how people listen to our stories, whether they're on their way to work, whether they're driving back from work, whether they're, you know, I had some really, really heartwarming stories about people who were caring for people who were sick and unfortunately in hospital. Right. And a gentleman was telling me how it was so difficult and a horrible thing that he was dealing with in his personal life. But what kept him going was the fact that he knew on the way to the hospital, he could listen to an episode and kind of lose himself in that. And then afterwards, he had the second half of the episode to listen to on his way home. And that is stuff that we as actors, when we're making these, when we're going on these adventures and creating the art and creating the stories and creating the drama, you don't really think too much about that because we're focused on making the most, you know, the best work. So when you hear experiences of that, it just makes you feel so proud to have been a part of something so wonderful. And if it can help someone, and you know, it's a lovely form of escapism for people. I feel like we're bombarded with visuals and the news and negativity and, you know, all of that so often. It's a bit overwhelming. So sometimes it's nice to just switch off, put on a Big Finish audio drama, allow yourself to go into a land far, far away for, you know, however long you want to listen to it, and you're free, you're safe, and you can enjoy that. So that's what I've taken away from this and being part of the community.
Oh, that's wonderful, because you know, Big Finish itself, you know, with the audio realm, anything is possible. There's no, you know, because with the visual, there's always a budget. You know, we can't
exactly.
We can't have that laser cannon to be that big. But in Big Finish, you can imagine it to be whatever it is that they're describing, or and the fact that the sound effects and the music is so well done. And I've had this opportunity to say this with Mr. Nicholas Briggs and Jason, who I've seen over the years, just to say that, you know, you guys basically saved Doctor Who, because the way, I don't know if you know the timeline here, of course, in '89, they canceled the original series, and then there was nothing until Dimensions in Time, which came out just shortly after that. And then the Doctor Who movie with Paul McGann in '96, which didn't do very well. And then '99, Big Finish opens its doors, gets the license, because, you know, I guess getting a Doctor Who license in the '90s was really easy. And so they got it. And of course, their license has now been renewed for a little bit longer, which is even nicer. But they were able to come, when those came out, that's what we had. And then, of course, in 2005, when Christopher Eccleston came back and the show was back, and it's been back since then, that kind of kept us going, especially those of us in my generation who started in the '70s. And even some older than me that started in the '60s. I mean, that's just, you know, it's one of those, you know, I've been watching the show for over 50 years. So it's really quite a, you know, and Big Finish is part of it. The books are part of it. And I started this podcast because I became a Doctor Who collector. That was my, so, I mean, you can see that the Dalek poster behind me, that's from the Cushing movie. There's books lining the room. This is my world. This is what I started doing when I was a child. Let's talk about some of the Big Finish adventures. So your first one is Dodo Chaplet. It was Doctor Who: The Secrets of Det Sen, and you got to work with Peter Purvis, the original Stephen Taylor. How was that?
Yeah, incredible. I mean, unfortunately, we didn't meet in person because we recorded that when peak pandemic, when
so you guys were virtual. Yeah,
lockdown 1 or 2 or something, when no one could leave the house. If you left the house and went more than 50 meters away or something, you were fined or questioned by the police. So it was, I was in crazy times. I can't believe that. I mean, that feels like a Doctor Who adventure in itself, just something that I'm sure in years to come, people will come
It'll
back.
happen. Yeah.
Come back to the coronavirus times. But yeah, so it was recording in that. So I moved back in with my parents because I wouldn't be lonely over lockdown. And I was recording. I set up a studio in my coat cupboard. So I was sat on an upturned bucket with some pillows. So my butt didn't go too sore. But because I was there for 8 hours, I recorded it, so I just had my cans on, and that was a remote recording. So luckily, what was really nice, I mean, you can never beat being in the studio with people because you get to meet people and interact with them. And like I said, with David Tennant, that was where you find and you get that rapport because you can work off them visually. But the challenge that we had during the virus was just working remotely. So I was in my cupboard, had my headset on, was on this laptop plugged in. We were using a device called Clean Feed. So that's where we can all come in and talk to each other, and there's an engineer on the line and everything's all being recorded. So we did all of that remotely. But yeah, it was really good fun though, because in my cupboard, it was so dark in there. I had like just a battery powered light bulb that I sort of stuck near so that I could see my script. And when you're running away, we were in the hills of the Himalayas, we were chanting. Honestly, I think my neighbors knocked on the door a couple of times and asked if I was okay. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm just running away from a Yeti. Don't mind me. So that's always fun about recording from home if you live I mean in a quite a built up area like I do in London, and I'm in the cupboard screaming help and running away, and it's kind of, is everything okay in there? No, fine, I'm in the Himalayas, don't worry.
I think you would have gone points if a policeman showed up and said, what's all this then?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. They probably would have just been like, do you know what? It's the virus. It's weird times. People got to do what they got to do to entertain themselves.
Exactly.
So yeah, but no, that was really cool. And yeah, that was my first episode as Dodo. So it was really, it was a shame that it wasn't in the studio, but also it was kind of, I'd had lots of conversations with the writer and Lisa, who was directing on that one.
Lisa Bowerman?
Yeah.
Oh, she's a dream too. Absolutely.
Fantastic actress, director, again, jack of all trades, It
was her birthday just the other day, actually. So
I think I saw her on Facebook. Yeah, I must go and properly wish her a happy birthday.
So the latest one that was just announced is called The Outlaws, the first Doctor adventure, with Stephen Noonan as the first Doctor. So that's going to be a story that's going to be between the Savages and the War Machines. So if you're wanting to get some background on that, read the Savages because you can't watch it. Listen to the Outlaws and then watch the War Machines, and you'll get that in there. So I'm sure that will be wonderful. We don't want to do any spoilers on that because it's not out yet.
Not out yet, but there's a clip available on Twitter. Big Finish released a clip, and the design team did an amazing job of putting the old imagery from the TV show with the audio that myself and Stephen have recorded. So if it's on Big Finish's Twitter feed. It was announced last week, so you might have to go back to Friday. I can't remember what the date was last Friday, but
no problem.
Yeah.
And it's available for pre-order on bigfinish.com right now. Just one other thing I wanted to mention, you played Maxine Mitchell in The Adventures of Lucy Miller, and I'm a huge fan of Sheridan Smith myself. I'm currently watching her on Jonathan Creek, which is a great show. You should see that.
That's a really awesome show. But yeah, that was another one of I grew up watching her on TV. So when I got to go into the studio and work with her, it was just amazing. She brought her puppy in one. Well, I mean, I think he's a really huge, Great Dane. He's a huge dog. But at the time she brought her puppy in. So I got to meet her puppy.
Oh, and finally, of course, just looking at your other projects, of course, you have 10 acting credits, a director credit, a writer credit, a producer credit, all on the same show. Tell us briefly about that show. That's what she said.
That's what she said. Oh, that was one that me and my good friend Adele James came up with, and when we were younger. So I say when we were younger, it must have been what, 4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
Not too long ago, but yeah, that was something we just wrote. It was basically, we were inspired by a TV show back in the day that we had called Skins. I don't know if that was a
yes.
Yeah, you might be able to watch it on BritBox still.
Yes.
So it was inspired, but we wanted to do a sort of like more modern Skins sort of vibe. Yeah, so I think there's one episode that's still in development, but we were writing, producing, acting on that. That was our first sort of project, creative venture together. And again, I'm sure you'll come across actors where acting is just one part of our life, and then we like to sort of do other things, directing, produce. I love producing is like one of my favorite things to do. I'm quite I'm chaos but also organized at the same time. I don't know, that's just being a creative. But yeah, there's an episode of that available on YouTube, and then I'm in a show called The Power, which is coming out on Amazon Prime. We've got a small role in that, which is cool. And then more for me, this is super exciting. There's a film coming out called Murder Ballads, How to Make It in Rock and Roll. And I play...
currently in production, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. We're nearly there with that. So that should be available. I'm not sure where it's going to be available, but keep your eyes peeled. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I'll post updates on that. So yeah, if you like rock and roll, I'm a bit of a rock and roll queen junkie. I love rock music. Grew up
Me
on
too.
it. Yeah. So it's about a rock band who will do anything to get to number one. And I play a fun groupie in it called Annie. So there's more to her than what you think.
We will look forward to that. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being with us today, Lauren. My listeners, of course, you can find Lauren on Instagram. She's at Lauren Cornelius. That would be easy to find. My guest was Lauren Cornelius. She plays Dodo Chaplet. So thank you for being here today, Lauren, and everybody else. Stay tuned now for the most outrageous offer coming up after this.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson,
Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors podcast. Keep collecting.
All my travellings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
And now it's time for the most outrageous offer. Today we have an outrageous offer that may or may not be outrageous, depending on how rare this item actually may be. But it was sent to us with the condition that we do not name the person who sent it. So we are talking about an eBay product here, an eBay item that is up for buy it now at a price of $9,999.99. Or, by the way, $432 for 24 months with PayPal credit, free shipping in the United States. We are talking about the Funko Pop Doctor Who 13th Doctor, number 619, limited edition 1300, I think. It seems a bit high for that. I've seen it on other sites for $800. I've seen some of it down to $80. It depends on where you go. This obviously these are very sought after. This is the Doctor in the coat with the item. So not to be confused with the one with just the suspenders and the rainbow shirt. That's a different one entirely. So this one has the coat on her and all that. So that may be something. There's 1,300 limited, first to market. It's listed as San Diego Comic-Con 2018 debut. So this may in fact be an item that demands a high price, but it demand a $10,000 price tag. I'll leave that up to my listeners. I don't feel it's a good deal at all to spend 10 grand on one item that you might not, if you're looking at an investment, you probably won't get your money back. If you're a diehard collector and you've got to have it and you've got the resources, knock yourself out. But if that's, the kind of thing that is going to drive the prices up, maybe they need to rethink how they market these limited edition items. Because we've heard limited edition before, especially in Doctor Who. There were items that were said these were limited editions, and then turned out more of them were available. We found out that in TARDIS 21, I believe it was, John Pertwee was supposed to sign 3,000 posters, and he ended up signing like 8,000 posters. So there are more out there than there originally were thought. So it's important to keep that in mind. So, of course, this could be a legitimate offer, but we are going to watch this carefully and make sure that see what happens. We'll follow up on this. If it does sell or if it does not sell, you'll hear back from us. So that takes it for the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. I want to especially thank my guest today, Lauren Cornelius, who plays Dodo Chaplet on Big Finish. She's done a lot of other roles as well. So you can find her on Instagram. And be sure to follow her there. And of course, go to bigfinish.com to buy all of her adventures. You can get them on CD or for download. And of course, if you buy the CD, the download comes with it if you have the Big Finish app. Big Finish, we love stories. So thank you so much for joining us. Our next episode will be our 50th episode. We are very excited about that. And we've got planned for that. Katie Haynes is going to join us again to do a wrap-up on Gallifrey 1 in Los Angeles, and I can't wait to hear the stories about that. Anyway, keep collecting.
A Doctor Who Podcast Network.